Thursday night, my man Kyle Weeder from Adrenaline.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, man. How's Kansas treating you?
It's good. It's still hot. I did all those guys that snuck into the stand this week to try and shoot a buck are sweating their tails off. It's a fine line between being able to pattern them and sitting there and sweating through it. So
you got that right. I just saw on Instagram somebody in Kansas apparently killed like this mega buck.
Yeah, we've all seen it. So have you heard the story?
It got out of a hive.
Got out of a hive fence. They were feeding it, shot it, and claimed it as the Kansas non-typical record. Yeah, sorry, boys.
I mean, what are you gonna do if it walks by, Dan?
You're gonna shoot it. You're gonna shoot it.
Yeah. Apparently, he didn't realize until after he shot it, I guess. But it had a hole in its ear from a tag. Who knows? But
so anyway, he was because I'm trying to think. So the non-typical record is actually Brian Butcher. Did you see it in our ATA? We had it in our booth. His skull. So he shot it in El Dorado, Kansas, and it scored 323. He never had it on camera. It was his first set of the season. I think it was an October set, and that deal walked in like just crazy. But
it needs another year probably, but
probably it was some deformity that happened that deal to score 323. But
yeah. That's
even before we get too deep, tell us about the show, where it airs, how long you've been on, how you got into this deal. Give everybody a little background on you, because I know a little bit about you.
So you're going to make everybody tell me. Let me tell everybody how old I am. I turned 50.
Oh, don't tell them how old you are. You don't have to do that. Everybody knows you're 65. That's fine.
Yeah, whatever. I'm a good look at 65. So Adrenaline's been on the air since 2006, but a couple of networks went under. Then the Sportsman Channel actually reached out to us, a gentleman named Monty Daniels. We've been on there ever since that was 2008.
Wow.
And our prime slot is Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central, and there's 3 other times during that week. So, we've been doing it, man. We was cranking along and just doing our thing. And of course, our Facebook stuff is obviously live right now. It's official Adrenaline Junkies, and then on Instagram as well, the same tag. So that's it, man. We're just doing our thing, and can't wait till deer season. I am excited, buddy. We got some pretty good deer. I got a big 8-point that was 5 last year. He's 6 this year. I got a buck. We can talk about him. I got a buck that I call Shano for certain reasons.
Yeah.
And then
So tell people where you're hunting.
So we hunt our own properties in Illinois, and we are, if you divided Illinois in thirds, like from north to south, we are right where central Illinois and southern Illinois meet, and like basically straight east of St. Louis, about 30 miles. And our life, grew up here with all my buddies hunting. I used to own the archery shop here in town, and it's still going strong. Still a big Matthews deal. It's awesome. It's North American Outfitters, and it's always just been in my blood, man. I've been hunting since I was little, but deer hunting with a bow since I was 13. And I got lucky. I was 14, shot my first doe. My buddy's dad took me down to Shawnee National Forest to public hunting on a fire trail. Said, sit right here. Said, okay. First time I'd ever seen a live deer.
With a bow?
Yes, with a bow. Yeah.
Wow.
A bear whitetail too, baby. And to this day, I wish I wouldn't have sold that bow. That aggravates me that I sold it, because I just want it now for obvious reasons. Yeah. But yeah, shot that deer and been hooked ever since. So
at 13, wow.
Yeah. Well, first year hunting 13, shot my first deer when I was 14. And
yeah.
Now at the ripe old age of 35, here I am.
We're all joking about how old we are. We were talking about how we need glasses now before we hop on here, everybody. So anyway.
I actually asked my daughter if she had a magnifying glass earlier today, because I was fixing a trail camera wire and I couldn't see it, and I had to solder it. So here we are.
So you're hunting 1,000 acres there in Illinois, not too far from St. Louis, right?
Yeah, give or take.
And you're a big food plot, like conservation. I know that is so heavy in your show for all the stuff you do. You're doing it
Yeah,
the right way.
I'm all about strategy. I like to go after certain deer, and I have obviously have the luxury to do that. But a lot of our tracks to ground are smaller tracks as well, but we're killing a lot of these deer. And man, once I get one under my skin, I mean, all my buddies will tell you that's it. That deer is the one, and it's just how it goes. And I pass up a pretty good deer, probably that I shouldn't have because I was waiting on a particular deer. But it goes with the territory, right? If you want to manage big deer for big deer, and you want to, it's all about the age structure. You know the drill, and everybody knows this already. But it's all about age, right? So, but my limit for me is they need to be 5.5 years old. Right? Some people stop at 3.5. Some people stop at 4.5. I'm not crazy enough to go to 6.5 or anything like that, because I say once they hit 5.5, they become the ultimate survival machine, anyways. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're just, you're lucky to get a few pictures of them, and think about how many times a year you get a shot at a big deer.
You know what's crazy is it's crazy. Like sometimes I know there's cameras there. You know what I mean? Like you think you put a camera over a feeder to get inventory, and then you set one off on just a well-used trail somewhere, and you're like, that deer's never come to the feeder.
Right.
They just get it.
So it's funny you say that because we kind of prepped for this a little bit. Dan asked me to maybe dig up some photos or some trail cameras of some of the deer I've shot or whatnot. Now that you said that, let me dig it up real quick. I'll show you. There's a buck I call Buster Brown. I killed him in 2019. He's a stud deer. He really is. But I'm watching his trail camera video. I'm thinking, okay, he's working the scrape, and then all of a sudden he turns and he comes up to the camera. I said, okay, that's kind of cool. And he gets so close, at night you could literally see his pupil. I was like, whoa. Let's see if I can find it.
Well, show us, yeah. And then, so do you have your deer picked out for this year that you're all freaked out about, or you got narrowed to 3, or what's your?
Okay, I got a target buck I've called Chuck for Chuck Norris because he's just that good for years. And I have encounters with the deer, but I can never. He just knows, man. I don't know how to explain that. He's that guy, right? And this year he'll be 7 years old, and if he's still alive, I don't have a picture of him, but I got sheds off of him. Okay, so but he shed early. So he shed real quick. He shed. I was hunting him January 1 through the 7th, and I went and checked the trail camera right where I was hunting. He shed both antlers on the 31st. I didn't even know it. I was hunting a deer with no antlers. So,
wow.
So my last part of my deer season turned into a shed hunt, right? So,
at least you know he made it, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's got a bad limp because he must have broke his ankle or something a couple of years ago. So he walked with a bad limp, and it actually screwed with his rack a little bit. He was straight up clean, typical 10. Now he throws a couple kickers, and on top of that, his G4s used to be like 7 or 8 inches. This past year they were like 4. It all happened. I know they change every year, but you can definitely tell that he went through an injury, right? And he had to recover from that before it went to the rack. But
you have pictures of him. You can show us.
Yeah. Here he is, right here. If you want to swap.
Yeah, I'll share the screen so people can see it.
All right, and I'll spread this guy.
And if you guys have questions tonight, feel free to ask them. I'm remote here and trying to monitor the comments and do this when I normally have a person helping me, but we'll try and answer some questions tonight too. All right, let's see. Here he is.
There he is. That's Chuck. You can see he's got these kickers on his G3s now and off his G2s. I'm gonna
zoom in on him just a little bit. Can you do that?
I don't know. There you go. How's that?
There, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So he's, it's hard to say from this photo this is actually a clip of video. I just took one screenshot off a video because that's the closest I had him this past year. He was 83 yards, I believe, roughly at that right there. That guy, man. He just always stays out of range. I'm gonna shrink that up if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
There we go. And so that's him. I didn't dig up the other photos. I got him since he was 3. Okay, he's been on the farm living there, and now he's gonna be 7 this year. He was actually bigger at 5 than he was last year because of the injury situation. So who knows what it's going to be this year? But he's just that guy where I've told you before. I told you this last night, actually. I said I kill almost every one of my bucks on the almost right for him and almost wrong for me win. It's never like the perfect win for me, like it's blowing from him to me. It's always a sketchy win to kill him. And he's just that he always stays where there's always does between him and I. It's almost like he knows, but he doesn't know. And if I go any deeper, the does are going to bust me. I mean, he just plays the cards just right every single time. But then I got another buck. Let me see here. So this is, let me see here, because I like showing this stuff to people. Let's see.
So while you're looking for those, let's talk a little bit. So, where else do you usually hunt, like other states, and then what are you hunting this year?
Okay, so if I draw, I always apply for Iowa, but you know how that goes. Being a non-resident, you get a tag once every 4 years.
Five.
Or 5 with Kansas, which we talked about this. I don't understand what happened, but nobody that I know drew a Kansas tag. You know,
So Kansas went from drawing like 80% of the people would draw to maybe 15% this year. It was crazy. Yeah.
What did? No reason that you know of?
I think there was just that much demand. So if you didn't have some preference point, and no one had preference points because you used to always draw. You know what I mean? Right. So yeah, I don't know.
And if you didn't draw, whatever day that was, if you had to be there at midnight, you could hurry and
get a tag. There aren't any of those tags left over.
There was none left.
I've had guys do that, and it just doesn't.
Right.
They aren't there.
Well, so I normally do a Colorado elk hunt, which is kind of out of my realm, but I like that because you're so used to sitting at a deer stand all the time throughout deer season, and then all of a sudden you get out there, and it's epic, it's beautiful, and I shot a bull in 2000 and I'm getting old, so I can't remember. I think it was 2018 I shot a bull, and then last year I did not shoot one. I actually kind of stayed back. I had one of our guys that had never shot an elk in his life. I always kept putting him out front, and he had a couple opportunities that just kind of slipped through our fingers. It just one thing led to another.
Pick me next year. I've never shot one.
Okay, well,
I've missed a couple, but yeah.
Boy, I'll tell you what, it's a different ball game, isn't it?
Yeah. So. And you said that was near Telluride, then, right?
Yeah,
kind of southwest Colorado.
Yeah, we basically stay right around Telluride. It's I go to a place called High Sierra Expeditions, and look, I'm not pumping outfitters and that sort of thing out there, but I can tell you right now, these guys do a great job. And if you want to go to Colorado and actually get an opportunity to shoot at a bull elk, that's the guys to go. And it's not that expensive comparatively, right? You can go to a lot of states and it's twice the money. So if you're ever going to go on a once in a lifetime, I would highly recommend it. And we get into some bulls that are 320, 330 bulls. I mean, they're not Arizona bulls where they're pushing 400. I mean, it's your typical Colorado bull, right? But I'm thrilled. So anyway, so there, I'm actually going to Texas for the first time this year. The hunt down there with the guys from VIP Broadheads, and then I'm pretty much going to stay in Illinois. I have an invite to Kentucky. I have an invite to Ohio. But like I said, you just never, everybody can probably attest to this, you just never really do any better than what you do on your home turf, right?
Well, better than anything. Yep.
Right. I mean, and if you're seeing them, why would you leave? Right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I get one buck under my skin. That means more to me if he's 160-inch deer or whatever versus going somewhere shooting a deer I've never seen. Don't get me wrong, I'm still happy, right? But it's just not the same.
There's a question here, a comment from a guy, Brian, and I'm probably going to mess up his last name, but Shookneck. He asked, "Where do you hunt in Iowa?"
So I hunt. I've hunted in like Zone 4, Zone 5, and Zone 6. I'm sorry, Zone 3 on the west side. Those are basically the bottom 2 counties across Iowa. I do take a good friend of mine, and he lets me kind of do my thing. Is a guy named Bryant Shermo Adventures. Because here's the thing about Iowa. If you go up there, you can buy or you lease property and you're a non-resident. You don't get to hunt it every year no matter what, no matter how much you own, right? So you're better off if you know somebody up there. So I know Bryant very well. Call out for him real quick. He drew a once-in-a-lifetime bighorn sheep tag this year.
Oh.
He killed him with a bow. Already.
Where?
I don't know. I just saw the pictures. I was just like,
yeah.
Oh, Bryant, and he's a little older than me. Sorry, Bryant, if you're watching this. So he's 40. So, but yeah, he'd been trying to draw that tag for like 20 years or so when he finally got it.
Right.
killing with a bow, you know. So
That's
that's
all.
it's a good test of how good he is as a hunter, right? So
I wish somebody would have set me down and tell me how much I would enjoy bow hunting and all this when I was 25 and say, all right, start putting in for this tag and this tag and this tag.
yeah, because by the time I draw one, I'm going to be like 95, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know. So, but so that's where I go in Southern Iowa.
Uh-huh.
I hear there's other places like Northeast Iowa is supposed to be phenomenal and whatnot, but man, if I'm going to go to Iowa, I'm going Zone 4, Zone 5, and those bottom couple counties. That's just where I go. You know. Have you hunted Iowa? Have you been up there with Chase or
I
anybody?
am not. So I'm at 4 or 5 preference points for it. I have never hunted Iowa for deer. I've hunted turkeys up there, and I know the guy that does our marketing, Chase, has a place there in Southern Iowa. I'm sure I can go join him. But he had a little CWD go through his herd about a couple years ago. So I just applied for my preference point this year. He said, you know what, just give it one more year. They're coming back, but we just one more year at age structure and it'll be really good. So
Was it CWD or EHD?
It might have been EHD. I say that now out loud. Yeah.
Well, we've had a couple of bouts with that on our farm, and as a matter of fact, as you can imagine, I have a theory about why it affects mature bucks more so than it does like does and whatnot. I think it's because about the same time the midge flies around those water holes, the bucks. That's about the same time those bucks are starting to shed their velvet and they're all bloody. So those flies just kind of follow them off whenever they go to bed, and they get bit. All they gotta do is have skin contact and they get bit, and then next thing you know they're dead, right? So we found some along the creek. Uh, so my son and I were hanging stands, and this was 2 years ago, and I didn't have a wind checker, so I used some scrape fix thing with a puffer, right? And he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Because I could smell it." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Don't you smell it?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I smell it. So I kept going like that. Okay, so we just kind of worked our way to it. So he learned a pretty good lesson on how to use a wind checker, right, to go find dead deer. It was a big deer. It was 165-inch 10-point laying
Oh
dead.
my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, horrible, right? But
That's
yeah, so and then if I go to Kentucky, I try to stay on the west side of Kentucky simply because it's close to home. I don't know a whole lot about Kentucky. I know they're killing some really good deer down there, but
and is that over the counter then
yeah,
for Kentucky?
yeah, it's over the counter. And it's
Yeah.
2.5 hours, 3 hours away. It's pretty easy drive. Just like when I go to Kansas, it's 5 hour drive. It's a real simple drive for us, right? And we could darn near hunt in the morning and
Do
drive
you
over
hunt,
to the.
do you hunt Missouri? I mean, you're 30 minutes from the line.
It's funny.
It's over the counter.
No, I don't. It's over the counter, and I think non-residents can hunt or kill 2 bucks as well. I just, and I know Kansas has a rifle season, but Missouri has a rifle season. It's a really long rifle season.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for the guys that are hunting in Missouri and they're struggling with it. But there's also guys that are killing really good deer in pockets. I just never really looked at the state. Honestly, it's crazy because I go right over it. If I'm going to Iowa, I drive through it to Iowa or Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, that's pretty much that. And then as far as Illinois and how it all works for non-residents, we get beat up pretty hard because, well, leasing. I have people hit me up with this all the time. I see there's questions popping up on here, but I see this all the time from people asking me. They'll reach out and say, "Hey man, can you find me a place to hunt in Illinois?" Man, it's not that easy. It's real, and I mean this wholeheartedly. It's
Yeah.
not.
Will you put me in line for that? That'd be great.
I know a guy that might help you. You might actually.
You're right. No, I think it's tough all over the country. That's the deal is, and obviously part of the reason why we don't have younger hunters, unless you've got access to it or somebody who's willing to sponsor you along the way and do it. It's all over the country. It's tough.
Yeah, and so I got a couple of guys that film for the show that actually sell hunting properties,
Mm-hmm.
and I get it. Everybody wants to hunt 1,000 acres, right? But if a guy would actually to purchase say 20 to 40 acres, it's a starting point, right? And then every other year you flip that. Usually by about year 7 or 8, you're into about a 200-acre piece, and then you're set, right? If you're happy with that. But that's one way to get in and actually have a good investment, not just burn money on a lease, right? You have a decent sized farm over in Kansas, don't you?
I do. So I lease a big chunk of ground from my cousins and uncle that have been in their family forever, and I've got a old cabin from the 1870s on it that's 400 square feet
Wow.
that we kind of house ourselves out of. And then I grew up down there, so my family, immediate family, still has two 250-acre pieces that are about 10 minutes from that cabin also. So we kind of use that as base and do that.
Yeah, but how much hunting do you actually get to do, Dan?
No, not. I mean, people think we hunt all the time, but I don't hunt very much. So I reserve a week in November, and I've got some people that'll come in and do it. I'll try and sneak out a time or two in October, and then if I'm lucky, then maybe I'll go take a. I've done some elk in the past in September, which is nice. Or maybe I can sneak away and do something somewhere else. I hunt in Texas about once or twice a year, also. Yeah.
Well, I see a question up here, Dan. What is your go-to scent crusher product? I would definitely go with the gear bag. It goes with me everywhere I go. So I have a closet in my garage, and the clothes go from the washing machine straight to dryer, straight to there, and then I mean that's where they stay. And everybody knows, do not unzip that. Right? I even put my trail cameras in there before I take them out. Okay, and so then I take my clothes right out, put them in a gear bag, and take them down to the farm.
How far is the farm from where you live?
On a good day with the right wind and no traffic, you're talking about a 55-minute drive to the main farm, right? So it's not. Yeah, I mean we got farms that are only 30 minutes away, but there's one farm in particular is the biggest farm that we have. I don't do a lot. Let me back up. I hunt there quite a bit, but that's not where I do all of my hunting. Everybody thinks that I have one big tract of ground. That's not true at all, right? So, like I said earlier, we actually kill a lot of our deer on our smaller tracts of ground. My cousin who films for the show, he used to film for the Wild Outdoors with Jay and Ryan Beckman. He bought a smaller tract of ground. Plus, he hunts right across the road from me by my other piece, and he killed 2 slammers last year, and both of them were on small properties. I think the biggest property is 87 acres. So, yeah, I mean, it's.
Here's a great question. You probably know this guy because I know him. Travis Lehman.
Oh gosh.
He's a great guy. And he's Kansas boy, so we're gonna ask his question here. He goes, "What was the most special deer hunt you've been a part of? Was it Brownie's Booner or the King?"
Brownie's Booner by far. I mean, the King buck. So let me explain this. So my daughter was 11 in 2014, and we had a buck we called Holy Moly. It's actually in North American Whitetail Magazine. But a funny thing, actually both deer are. And she didn't know. I just wanted her to kill a deer. And we had piles of does coming into these food plots, and I'm like, but I also knew that this buck was in one of 2 food plots. We just could never how it is, chess match. Yeah. And she knew there was a buck we called Holy Moly, blah blah blah. And I said, let's just go shoot a deer. And I knew she's going to see some does. We get in there. A doe and a fawn comes out, a little buck, and then this Holy Moly steps out. And I go, look at that one. And my daughter, she's cute as a button at 11. She goes, holy moly. I go, that's him.
That's the one.
That's the one. She's like, she kind of freaked out. I shouldn't have said that to her. Anyway, she ended up shooting him 22 yards, hit him high. He drops. Of course, I didn't show it on television because I didn't want her to get crucified by the social media army, right? And then so she put another arrow in him, and he was one. I'm going to talk score, but he's 188 7/8 gross.
Wow.
Yeah, with a bow at 11. I know. And then
a lifetime.
Yeah. So then the King buck. But she had bragging rights in the Weeder household for a year. Okay. So then I got the biggest buck on the wall. Blah blah blah. And so then, and believe me, she used it. So the next year, I was hunting with Tyler Yealing. Okay, the morning of November 9th, we had shot a buck. Okay, and nice deer. We were doing photos with him and everything throughout the afternoon, so we didn't get a chance to hunt in the evening. So I said, hey, let's just go drive to the south side of the farm and we'll just glass, and we'll just see what comes out. And this absolute, I'm not going to tell you what I actually said, but this absolute freak of a buck comes out, and we looked at each other, and right away. He went from one little point over to another point, and he was gone. So I saw him like for 10 seconds through the binoculars, but I saw him good enough to know that he's a 200-inch deer. And the next night we had perfect winds. So Tyler and I went and set up. That deer was the very first deer to step out in the field, and we called him right to us and killed him, and he scored 202 in an eighth. I mean, just pure luck, right? I mean, I saw the deer one time before that, and we killed him the next day. You know, I mean, I'll take it though, you know.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
but it doesn't that or Brownie's buck by far, the Holy Moly buck. That's probably the greatest single moment of my entire 40 years of bow hunting. You know, I mean, I'm sorry, 10 years of bow hunting.
Do you have a picture of that buck on your computer handy? Or is that something you need to dig for?
That's something I'd have to dig for. I don't.
We won't. I just thought if you had it right there or whatever. I figured it was probably your screensaver or something. I didn't know.
Yeah, I have it in my favorites. I can, while we're talking, I can move over to my computer.
So we were. You could hold it up to your screen too. Probably would work if you wanted to. We were talking about our kids and getting into hunting and all that stuff. And your son is such he's been with you so long on the show through all of it. I've enjoyed watching him kind of grow into a man and the musician he's been and all of that stuff. And I know he just went off to school, but you were talking about his hunt last year a little bit before. Do you? Right. And I think you had some pictures of that, or
right. Oh, real quick, we talked about the Holy Moly buck. I don't know if y'all can. Where am I going here? Help.
Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah.
Hold on.
Yep. No, we see it.
There's that one. I mean, he's just an absolute beast. It's hard to see it really good because the lighting's just not perfect. Sorry. Yeah. But yeah. So that made North American whitetail. So Logan's buck last year. Okay, so Logan got into high school. We got into junior high. He found my guitar. I took him to a Van Halen concert at third row, and then the next thing I know, he's playing guitar like a wild man. And so off to the races. He actually's like Kenny Wayne Shepherd opened for Van Halen. This is a real quick story, but Kenny Wayne opens it. He played phenomenally, right? He's an incredible guitar player. And I'm an old guitar player from the day, right? And Van Halen hits the stage, and of course it's louder, lights are bigger and better. Eddie's doing all this crazy stuff, right, with his finger, both hands. We get done, and Logan says, "I can't do Van Halen, but I can do Kenny Wayne Shepherd," and he's been a blues guy ever since, man. So anyway, when that took off, he kind of got away from hunting a little bit, and I understand he's got school and different things going on. Gets into high school, and he's got gigs. He's doing all these different things. And so last year was the first deer he had shot in 7 years. And we're in a stand. Mind you, it's the first. We're here at the house. He tells his girlfriend, Kelly, he says, "When I shoot one today, you can start hunting tomorrow." We get in the truck. I'm like, dude.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, right. Easy, man. We didn't do it. Don't set ourselves up for disaster. And so in the morning, he takes a swing and a miss at an old buck that we actually call it Linda's buck. It's just an old, nasty 8-pointer. He's 7 or 8 years old. I got pictures of him this year somewhere, but he's only got a unicorn on one side this year. He's so old. And anyway, he misses him at like 40 yards. And first year he's ever missed with a bow. And I thought, well, does he? And in the back of my head, I'm like, he didn't shot a deer in 7 years. Did he get rattled? But he long story short, the deer hopped a creek, and he didn't add on the extra 7 yards, right? Yeah. Anyway, so then that night we go and we set up, and we're in what we call the southeast food plot. And there's 4 or 5 does out. There's already been 1 buck out where we're trying to get set up in the tree stand because we're always running late. And so I had to freehand that, and he's got a split 2 on his left side. He's a nice buck. And if he'd have come in, I told Logan to shoot him, but he ended up going off with the doe. So we get everything set up. Camera arms on the tree, GoPros are up, the whole 9 yards. I'm filming this other buck off to the side. He's a typical. I know the deer. He's a 5-year-old. I don't have a name for him. He's 5.5 at this point, and he's got a broke off 2, and he's got a broken 3. Long story short, he's just like, I'm thinking to myself, he's not going to want to shoot this deer. As I'm filming him, all of a sudden, either he said way left or shooter to our left, and I pulled the camera back and I turned it. It's on the. I think it actually aired last night during Deer Week. I pulled the camera to the left, Out walks a buck we call a sleds buck. Okay. I'm going to tell the story. I didn't think I'd want to tell this, but I'm going to tell it anyway, just for anybody with their kids. For a split second, we're so hardcore in managing our deer. For a split second, I said to him, I was like, oh, he's only a 4-year-old. We don't want to shoot him. And he goes, oh, okay. And I thought for myself as a dad, I thought, what are you doing? I mean, this is, you're with your kid, man. This is a moment, right? So I said, you know what? I said, he comes in here. I said, crush him. And he's like, no. And then we're having this conversation. This deer's walking in. He sees that other buck off to the right, right. He sees this other buck off to the
Arguing
right.
about whether you want to shoot him. That's great.
Yeah, so he's marching over there. I'm like, no, dude. I said, he's like, okay. And so he pinwheels this deer. I mean, if you're looking exactly where you would touch the deer to shoot him, he hits him. The deer goes about maybe 30 yards across the food plot, stands in the food plot in the standing beans and falls over dead. It was a
perfect.
Yeah, the best hunt I've had in a long time, and I've had some pretty good ones in between Brownie and Logan, but those are the best ones for me, right?
And you get to do because you got to do it with your son.
Yeah, I mean, and he knows the drill. He knows, he's when he was younger, we had to kind of corral him to hey, we got to talk about this. We got to, and he knows the drill. He's like a super professional now when we're out there. He's like, he just says it all perfectly. But the nice thing was when he walked up to the deer, he was even. I could tell he was excited that he shot the deer. To me, that's a big deal, So, long story short, Sled's buck is gone, and now we're off to the next one. So
there's a comment here that I thought was well suited to what you're just talking about. And Jason Hurt goes, I decided a long time ago that my kids could shoot any deer they wanted until they turned 18, and then they had to be adults. Yeah.
Well, he
just to keep them interested. Yeah.
He was 20 at the time, but but again, it's been 7 years since he shot.
Right.
And I'm just like, you know what? And it was his best year. I mean, he's a solid buck, And people can shoot whatever they want, but Logan knew the drill, what we're trying to do on the farm, and that's why he told me I was okay with letting him go. I'm like, I mean, this is what we're here for, bud. These are the moments. We don't live forever, right? That's how it goes. And I think he got a better understanding of it once with the ride home. We were kind of talking about a lot, how it is, dad, son talking about things. But my daughter, I told you, she's going to school, living in a basement with a cat, and I'm trying to get her to go hunting this year. so
you didn't bring your cat in with you to the office or the golf?
Told you I spend about half my time on shepherd from eating the cat. So, but, she's I went and got Jessie a Matthews bow, the whole 9 yards, got her set up. She's shooting, so she's pretty excited about going hunting this year. So that makes me happy as a dad, right? Because she really didn't. And for all the dads out there, even the moms out there, when your kids go through high school and they lose interest in all this stuff, believe me, it hurts. But they come back around. Just don't push off on them, right? Just let them kind of work their way back into it, So yeah, I mean, she shot a 190 basically, so she's done. Right? So she's like, I already did all that, But
there's another question here, which I think is great because you do such a good job of managing and shooting big deer every year. And Chris Johnson asks, what do you think your biggest component is for getting on big deer consistently? He said, aside from scent control. So what are you doing that you think are the pieces for that?
I'm telling you, it's pressure. So a lot of people are surprised that I don't have trail cameras out, June, July. I don't ever put my cameras out till about mid to late August because I know that they're going to be there. Some of the bucks aren't actually, and some of the bucks aren't there because they're all off with their buddies, right, in bachelor groups on another farm, and then they come in after they shed their velvet. So I'm in no hurry as far as putting pressure on deer early. And then even when I go check a trail camera, I always try to make sure the wind where I think they're bedding, I try to make sure the wind's not blowing right into their bedding. Even this time of year, I'm trying to be careful with that. And then one of the biggest factors is I put trail cameras when the scrapes start. Every single trail camera I got goes on scrapes. And I put them all on video mode. Pretty much all my cameras are on video mode all the time. So I can see when they're turning their head, I can see what they got. And that's the telling tale right there because, you hang, and I use cell cameras, so you hang them out there, right? You're no pressure on them. And you put it out there when the wind's right, and you watch what bucks are hitting it. And you notice that he's hitting the scrape, and all of a sudden, oh, he's 300 yards down an hour later hitting that scrape, and well, look at there, he's doing it 3 nights in a row. Eventually, it starts to become daylight, right? Mm-hmm. There's a little bitty window from where it goes from they're all dark to all of a sudden they're right on the cusp of daylight, and then all of a sudden you got about 3 days where they're like marching out there an hour before dark, right? And they're up later in the mornings, and that's usually when we try to capitalize. So pressure is definitely, that's the number one thing. I get it, guys get excited. I see, I'm going to say this nicely, I see a lot of influencers that are excited when they get their trail cameras out and they get pictures of bucks, so they want to get out there and like keep putting all these posts out there, and I'm just like, I'll let them soak. Yeah, just let them soak, right? And just pull them off when I can. But maybe it's because I'm 35 and they're 20. People are just getting on here like, what is he talking about? Because I told Dan earlier that I turned 50 July 22nd. I hate to even admit it, but it is what it is, right? So
it's a good year. I turned 50 this month too. So
yeah, we made it. So yeah. How about you, Dan? You're always asking the questions. How about you? I mean, you get a week. So how do you handle that week?
To be quite honest, I kind of prefer to put other people on deer. They come to my farm. I love to manage it. They're usually close friends or part of our staff, which is actually both. So I will go out and hunt during that, but I really don't take the lead for where the what I think are the great spots, because I just like to watch my friends shoot other, big deer. But I will hunt a little bit in October before that. And again, it's the same kind of thing. You're using trail cameras. You've got feed there. You make sure you've done all the right things from scent control to wind,
right.
and do it. But for me, I am not. I'm right on the edge of cell reception too. So the cell cameras, I've got like one here, but I can't have it at the other farm. So it's really just, I don't shoot big deer like you guys, and there's a reason, because I'm not out there working as hard as you are, So I'll go, and it's hit or miss. I enjoy it just like everybody does. I enjoy the sounds and the nature and the sunsets and the sunrises as much as anybody, and that's good for my soul. So I make sure I shoot, several deer a year, so I've got stuff to eat. And
yeah. So you said something there that struck a nerve with me. So anytime I've ever done a whitetail seminar with guys, here's how. So imagine this. So you get on stage, so you're looking down at people. So you're on a podium, or you know the drill, and so automatically they're like, this guy thinks he knows more than me. That's not necessarily true. I just go out every day. I'm out there, right? Mm-hmm. And if you were to hunt my farm every day, like I hunt my farm, and you're worth your salt as a bow hunter, and you play the wind, you're going to kill the same deer that we kill, as long as you can make the shot. That's it. There's no secret to it, and that in itself, though, is what separates the men from the boys when it comes down to the shot, right? Because the shot is, I used to tell myself, I heard a podcast the other day. I used to tell myself, make the shot, all these, the drill. Everybody has something that goes through their head to get them through the shot, right? And I heard a Navy SEAL on a podcast of all things that he said he used to make explosives. He said, and he had to go in the bomb room, make them, then they'd go out to their mission, and he'd have to set it, and he'd go back to safe distance, and he'd look back, and he said he would see all of his Navy SEAL team with their green eyes, with their night vision. They're all waiting on him. So the whole mission's relying on him, right? And he said, I had 3 things go through my head. It was the same word. It was execute, execute, execute. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to start using that because I used to say, if you don't make the shot, nothing else matters. Right.
So you shoot and practice a lot, or?
I would love to shoot a lot more. It's just, we shoot a lot, but I'd love to shoot every single day. One thing that I do during deer season, though, is I do shoot midday pretty much every time I'm out there, because when I go to the farm, it's an hour drive, so I'm there no matter what. And then I'll just, I take a little block target, a Reinhardt target, and I'll shoot long distance. It's just a confidence builder, and that's pretty much how it goes for us. How about you? You get a chance to shoot at all?
I'll shoot some at my house. I've got a 25-yard setup in our warehouse at the office also.
Right, my wheelhouse.
should shoot more there, over lunch hours or whatever. I'm always kind of working through it, but probably not enough, honestly.
Right. Well, I mean, with today, I had this conversation with another good friend of mine who used to be involved with a big archery company. He said the modern compound bow is so good, the guys just don't shoot like they don't practice like they used to because the strings are better. Everything's just better. Technology is just better. But that's no excuse. I think guys still need to get out and shoot his bow, right? And so, so I always tell everybody, and I mean this, I like my deer 15 to 22 yards. I mean, that's where I want them, baby. Who doesn't want that, right? But I will take a shot because I practice it at a certain distance. If I feel the deer's relaxed and he's feeding, and he's just minding his own business and doing his thing, I'll shoot at a deer at 50 yards. Okay, and that's maybe early season. Come January, I let a pretty good deer go in January. For one, as I knew he was going to stay on the farm, but two, I'm just like, had him at 35, then I had him at 45, then I had him at 50, and I'm just like, it's just the wrong time of year to take that shot. And a lot of guys maybe don't understand that about a deer's body language. And so if you rattle in a deer and he comes barreling in and he stops at 45 yards, he's jacked up, right? He's on pins and needles. He's looking. And you take that shot, it could be a mess. But if he comes in and he's just feeding around and that's all he's doing is feeding, he does head down, pretty good time to take a shot, right? So it's just little things like that. But yeah, so I'm just rambling.
Well, we're about 40 minutes in here. I say we pick out one more question here and wrap it up. We'll let people go back to their evening, and you can go back to your family too. So let's see here. There was, what's that?
I see a guy says, was that Jocko? No, I do follow Jocko, but it wasn't Jocko. It was a guy on another podcast that he was a Navy SEAL. He was the guy that did the bombing. I don't remember the guy's name, honestly. It was a great podcast.
Yeah. Here's a great question. Mike Pasco, he goes, what do you do to make your mock scrapes? It's a great question.
Okay. There is a process to this for me, okay? So I will not use my boots or anything like that. I always take a rake with me. And the first thing I do is make sure I can, when I'm going to set a mock scrape, I set a mock scrape to where I know I can hunt it. If a buck's going to come to it during the daylight, I set it up myself up because they're going to come to it, right? You can set it wherever you want. And if I can't find one close to the stand how I want it, then it's when we go to what we call a scrape tree, right? And I recommend guys using, if you want bucks to hit your scrape tree, if you got them in your area, we always try to cut a cherry limb off anywhere from 3 to 8 inches in diameter. Pretty long, like about 8 foot long, because you're going to put 36 inches in the ground.
Yeah.
If you don't, they're going to knock it over. They're just that ornery with it, right? And we always make sure we got overhanging branches that are about neck high, right? They go out. So we set all that up, and then I go in there with a rake, and I go underneath them all, and I always try to set my trees and everything to where the deer's going to come around and be broadside or quartering away from me. And it's a simple trick. You put the scrape on your side of that tree, okay? Because he's going to come around to work it. That's just how it works. If he's on the opposite side of the tree, he's going to be facing you or quartering toward you. You don't want that. So that's what we do. And then I use a rake. I use scrape fix. I really do use scrape fix, everybody. And I put hardly any in the scrape, just a little bit of 2 or 3 little puffs, and I'll rake it in. And then make sure you go up under the branches, because that's where a deer's nose goes, right? You can't just go on top of the branches. Make sure you go up under the branches with 3 or 4 puffs, and that's it. Don't go crazy with it. If you put
and I think that's what people do is they think more is better, and especially on that, it's not. It's just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you got to realize how much a deer has a better nose than a bloodhound, right? So a little bit goes a long, long ways, and it lasts a long time too. So that's what I do. And then if I don't have a tree for trail camera, I'll drive a stake in the ground or whatever. At that point, when bucks are coming into the the mock scrape or the scrape tree or whatnot, and they're rubbing on it, they could care less if that that camera's sitting there at that point, right? They're so rutted up. As a matter of fact, we had Jake Rappa. He's one of my guys, one of my editors, camera guys. We actually used we had an extra log. I'm like, well, we could drive a stake in the ground, but I need that stake over here or fence post. So we put this thing in the ground, Camera's right there. They tore the antennas off of it. I'm like, that was not a very bright idea. So they did.
Wise, don't sacrifice your cameras in your pole. Yeah.
Yeah, do not do that. Okay, there's a lesson of the day. So, but anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much it. And just set them up strategically to where you can play the win the hunt if you got a buck coming to it. It's simple as that. And I do prefer to have a cell camera on it, so I'm not going in there constantly to pull cards.
And when do you start setting your scrapes? What time of year?
So actually, I haven't yet, but last week I was out and I saw my first scrape. And I could tell it was just a little guy messing around. But when the scrapes start, I will start with mock scrapes, because what it does, it starts to condition them bucks to come in. They're going to come in. Okay, so when you first start putting them out here at the beginning of October, it's going to be nighttime. 90% of it's going to be nighttime. You might get lucky and have a buck coming in and be able to get a hunt him, but it conditions him, and he'll keep coming back, and he'll keep checking that scrape and checking that scrape. Just play your cards right. You wait for you start to be on the cusp of daylight. Make sure your wind's right. Patience and no pressure is the key, and you slip right in and get lucky. Bottom line,
You know what? Thank you. Everybody's going to give you the credit for all the big deer they shoot over scrapes this year.
Whatever.
Of all the conversations I've had with people, we've never talked about scrapes like that before. That's great. I learned something too. So thank you.
Well, I've screwed up plenty. So, my method works for me. Hopefully it works for you. So, yeah.
Well, Kyle, I can't say thank you enough. I appreciate all you do with us all year long. Obviously, a chance for us to sit down tonight and talk a little bit and answer some questions. So thank you so much.
Man, I appreciate you having me. I really do. It's always fun to do this. We've only done it a couple of times. I'm not real good with like live deals because I have a tendency to cuss. So I got to watch what I say. But in general, yeah, it's a lot of fun, man, and it is. And if guys are killing bucks over scrapes or just killing bucks in general, man, send them to us. We want to see them. And we'll post them, we'll put them on our stories, whatever. Just let us know especially if you're using Scent Crusher and Scrape Fix or Matthews Bow, man, let us know. That's cool stuff to me, right?
Awesome. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you. Good luck this season. We'll stay in touch, and we'll catch up again soon. So have a great weekend.
Sounds, brother. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Thanks, guys, for joining tonight.
Yep. See you guys.